Corinthians 13, 4-8 says, love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Love is not provoked. That means that when a person's heart is full of love, he cannot easily be made angry. Anger is something that pops up many times all of a sudden. But how does anger come about? How does it happen? There are two things I would like to mention in connection with anger. What is it that makes people angry? One is the use of our voice. And let's talk first about the volume of our voice. When we talk to a person loudly, that person could get frightened or he could be made angry. For example, there is a difference between saying, "Who are you?" Or you can say, "Who are you?" Okay? The volume of your voice can provoke anger. So when you speak, try to keep your volume down, not too loud. Not too loud that it frightens the other person. And when he is frightened, he immediately becomes defensive. He wants to protect himself. And so he gets angry in return. So you speak in a loud manner. The other person answers loudly also. You want to outdo him, so you speak even louder. And before long, what happens? You are yelling at each other, angry at each other. So when you speak with your spouse, always speak in a very soft, low tone. The other thing is the tone of your voice. Your tone can sound angry even if you may not mean to be angry. So don't speak in a voice that projects anger. Speak calmly. Control the volume, control the tone, and control also the pitch of your voice. Our voice is capable of going high and going low. Usually when we get angry, our pitch goes high. And that high pitch can easily provoke anger. So when you talk to someone or you ask a question, be sure to speak in a lower pitch. Don't say, "What did you do?" You can say, "What did you do?" It makes a lot of difference. So watch your frequency, watch your volume. This works not only in marriage, but even with children. One reason why children yell at their parents is because their parents yell at them. Your manner of speaking to your children will show one day because your children will imitate the way you speak to them. So when you speak with children, use a low tone, don't shout, but be calm. And in that way, you don't frighten them. The same thing with your spouse. Don't provoke them to anger. Speak in a low tone, not too fast, but speak in such a way that your voice shows some tenderness. I once had a friend go with me. We went to visit her grandchild. She was so excited because she was meeting her grandchild. So she talked in a very excited way. And the child, you know, instead of coming to her, the child wanted to draw away from her. And she was disappointed because she thought that the child had known her enough to be friendly with her. Well, I went to the child and started to talk to the child in a very low tone, almost a whisper. So I asked things like, "Hey, what's your name?" And the child listened. And the child looked at me. And before long, the child was playing with me. And what was the secret? It was the use of the voice. So your voice has a lot to do with the kind of response that you get. So remember, when you talk to your spouse, when you talk to your children, when you talk with anybody, don't speak too loud, don't speak too fast, and don't speak in a high-pitched voice. Hello, welcome once again. We're happy to have you with us. And we trust that this will be a helpful session for all of you. I'd like for you to welcome Dr. Virginia Smith. She's a wide reader. And you know, when you read, your reading takes you to all kinds of places, but her experience is more than just reading. She's been to all these places that you would never imagine. Virginia, would you give us a little glimpse into the kind of experience that you had in the mission field?
Well, the first 10 years were in Tanzania, East Africa, and that was when I was home alone most of the time with my children.
Oh.
So that was one kind of mission field experience. We couldn't go anywhere when Daddy wasn't there with the car. Mm-hmm. And so my only job was being his secretary, which didn't happen too much of the time. Mm. But when we left there, I like to say, theologically incorrectly, we died and went to heaven because we moved to Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Big change.
What a big leap.
Yes. And then in Singapore, I could go to school. I began working full-time. I began teaching in college. And so my life broadened out. That was the wide place that God brought me to.
It's amazing God. It's an amazing God.
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, was your husband with you more?
He was still traveling. He was in the Union, and so he traveled in Sabah and Sarawak and Peninsula Malaysia and Thailand. And there were some other countries, but they were kind of politically unstable, and so he didn't go to those very often.
Wow. You are a seasoned missionary.
Well, I was a better missionary in Singapore than I was in Africa.
What do you mean better?
Well, in Africa, I couldn't do very much other than just stay home and take care of my children. But then when we got to Singapore, then I could branch out and do other things.
Yes, I must say you are a very self-sacrificing mother and wife.
I don't know about that. You know, you live a day at a time. Whatever comes, that's what you deal with. And the verse says that, what is it? That, if I had my Bible here, I could read it. But we don't pay real close attention to what's happening day by day. And God just helps us do what needs to be done day by day.
And I think that's a blessing.
It is.
Yeah, and it's only after it's passed that we look
that
back.
you look back and see it.
We realize
That's true.
Yes. Wow. Well, today we're talking about a topic that maybe needs clarification for many people. The Bible gives us excellent advice on how we could have happy marriages. The formulas are there. But in an experiment, sometimes, even if you follow the formula, it doesn't work. So maybe there are different reasons why, but it doesn't work probably because the formula is misapplied. For example, the Bible says, husbands, love your wives. What does it mean when it says that husbands should love their wives?
Even as Christ loved the church.
That's right, even as Christ loved the church. And how did Christ love the church?
Oh, beyond anything we can imagine. And just before we read that, husbands love your wives and so on, it says, imitate God. And then I think it's giving all, husbands and wives and families with their parents and children and masters and slaves. I think in each of those areas we need to look at what God does, what God is like, and imitate God.
And one thing about God is that He's willing to die for
That's right.
for His people.
That's right.
So husbands should love their wives and even be willing to give their lives for their wives. That's a beautiful kind of love. And again, we see God's concern for the woman.
Well, and recently in one of the war areas, there was a bomb and a husband fell down on top of his wife and saved her life.
Oh, wow.
And he died. So there are husbands that do that.
Yes, yes. And then the Bible says, wives, it doesn't say love your husbands back. It says submit yourselves to your husbands. What we're trying to talk about now is who should be the boss in the home.
I've always been curious as to exactly what the Greek says there. You know, when we're reading in English, it's gone through a translation process.
Right.
And I don't know for sure what it really says there. But again, if we look at Jesus and His relationship with us and our relationship with Him, what does that tell us about love and submission?
Let me just ask this little question. Who should be the boss in the home? Who should have the authority? Who should be the head? There was a movie that people were telling me about. I think it's My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh, yes.
And the mother says, yes, he's the head, but you are the neck.
That turns the head.
And you control the head where it goes. Is that the kind of relationship that should exist between husband and wife?
Well, I think that a lot of people would say, yes, the husband is the one in control. The husband should be the head of everything. But there are different circumstances. For instance, in our home, when my husband was traveling all the time, I couldn't always wait for him to come back to make a decision. Right. I had to make decisions when they had to be made. And so there are differing circumstances, but certainly we always need to respect one another and be sure that we're giving to the husband the respect and that is due him, because he does carry a heavy burden.
Yes, yes, yes. So how can we show this respect as a wife? How can we show this respect to our husband?
Well, I think we need to be careful about the way we talk to him. The tone of voice we use. Do we listen carefully to what he says? Or do we just cast it off and say, oh no, I think there's a better way to do it?
I believe, I have this theory, but I believe that husbands are sensitive, you know, they have a very, shall I say, sensitive ego.
Oh, yes.
And if a wife doesn't realize this, she can really destroy her husband in many ways. Husband's ego is so sensitive. It's like a balloon, you know. You just poke a little pin in it and it's deflated.
Yes.
But they say that it's also very easy to build up. Yes, which is good. So how and what are the ways that we can deflate our husband's ego?
Well, by arguing with them, whatever they say we should do, well, no, I think we should do it another way. That just doesn't work. That's very hard for husbands to accept. And when they do something kind for us, even if it's not exactly, let's say they surprise us with a gift, but it's not what we wanted. It's not the color we wanted. It's not the brand we wanted. What do we do about that? I think we should accept it graciously and just not say that it was different from what we wanted.
Right, and then recognize the motive
behind it.
The given,
Yes.
and that's what we should capitalize on rather than the error that
Yes.
was made. Yes. Because husbands do make an effort to make their wives happy. Sometimes they make mistakes, but we should know that behind the mistake there is that intention,
The good intention.
to make the wife happy.
Yeah.
Yes. Or sometimes, okay, we don't allow our husbands to make the decision. So some wives will take it upon themselves to say, this is the way we should do it and all of that. But I believe that in cases where a decision has to be made, the final say should be the husband's.
Probably there should be discussion
Yes.
so that each one understands where the other is coming from.
And in the case that there is a disagreement,
Well,
I think still the husband
keep
should
talking. and you know, it just worked best in our home. When Calvin was there, he made the decisions. He was in charge.
Yes.
When he left, then he wasn't there to do it.
And then you had to do it.
And then we had to do it.
Yes. A wise husband will always ask for suggestions, ideas from the wife. I think that was what happened in our home. If there was some decision that needed to be, my husband always asked me what I thought, but in the end, he made the decision. And I went along with his decision, trusting that he had thought about it, he did what he thought was best, and he wanted it for the good of everybody. Yeah. But you know, sometimes I think we women, I don't know why, we crave for some authority, or is it something? We want to have power, and to the point that it destroys the peace of the home.
But you know, there are some families where the husband is quite ineffective in thinking about what needs to be done. So I would not say that in every case the husband will have the honor of making the final decision. Because sometimes there's a lot of things involved in that final decision.
Right, yeah.
And once again, when I think about husbands and wives and their relationship, I always think about God the Creator. He created male and female. It took both to be in the image of God.
Right.
And He really wants to restore us to that relationship. So some very devoted Christian couples can run their lives in quite different ways from how the majority feel that should be done.
In the event that Okay, the husband and wife had discussed the matter. The husband made the decision, and it was the wrong decision.
Then what?
Then what? Yeah.
Don't say I told you so.
Exactly. I told you so.
That's really going to burst the balloon.
Yes, yes. So I think a better thing to say would be, well, we made the wrong decision, not you. We made the wrong decision.
And we've learned something from it. Next time we'll know better.
Yes, we'll do better. And in that way, the husband doesn't feel hurt. He doesn't feel very bad that he had made the wrong decision. But it does happen that sometimes the decision is not the best one. Okay. So there are many ways that wives can show respect to their husband, allow him to make the decision, make him feel that he is the head of the family. I think it's good for wives to consult their husband. Before doing anything, ask him if it's a good thing to do and all of that. And most husbands will give advice, they will give suggestions and all of that.
Well, and as the head of the family, I like to see the husband taking the lead in family worships.
Yes.
That doesn't always happen. In many homes, the mother is more dedicated in doing this than the husband is. But it gives a tremendous message to the children if the father leads out in family worship.
Exactly, yes.
Because with children, they're used to listening to women. They pay a lot more attention to men than they do to women. And when they see that men are involved in Sabbath school, in Pathfinders, in church, in family worship, that's a powerful example for them.
Right, yes, yeah. An example that molds the very lives of the children.
And research has shown that children who came from families that regularly had family worship have a much better chance of remaining faithful to the Lord.
So the Catholic proverb that says a family that prays together, stays together, holds a lot of truth in it. Yes. One way that we can destroy our husband's ego and self-respect is to criticize him, especially in public. That is very detrimental. He may make a mistake, but wait until you are by yourselves to point out the mistake.
I had some friends where the husband was kind of foolish in some ways. And he would say things that just, if my husband said that, I'd have to tie up my tongue to keep me from not saying something about it. And his wife would just sit there and smile. And one time I said, "How can you do that?" And she said, "He can make a fool of himself all by himself." But she remained very, very, very loyal to him.
That's very commendable. Yes, I think loyalty is a very strong word there, and it should be strongly encouraged.
What is the word from 1 Corinthians 13 that we're talking about today? It's love
is not easily provoked.
Is not easily provoked.
Yes.
Okay.
So love will wait until proper time to talk to the husband. But some wives will criticize right out there, and I feel sorry for the husband.
That's hard to listen to.
Very hard to listen to, yes. It's not easy to be a wife, to support your husband and suffer when some things go wrong. But I think it is our duty as wives to remain on our husband's sides and suffer with him if necessary, support him when he needs the support. And in that way, we are following, we are obeying the command to respect our husbands. Somebody said that husbands need respect more than they do love. We wives, we want our husbands, we want to hear from our husbands, I love you, and we feel loved and we're happy. But somebody said that for husbands, love to them maybe doesn't mean as much as respect. When they see, when they feel that their wives respect them, they feel the men that they should be.
In Genesis, where it says that God created Eve and gave her to Adam to be a helpmeet for him. And when that's actually translated correctly, it means almost in a way a caregiver.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And husbands need care.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
And more as they get older.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and it's the care, it's care that a wife can give that will really help her husband. And men may seem strong and all of that, but they still need tender, loving care, and they need to know that there is someone who cares for them and wants the best for them. And that thing the wife can give. Well, thank you, Virginia. I didn't realize our time was gone, but I think this was a topic that needed to be addressed. It is difficult as a woman to have that role, not to be up front, to be behind. But I think that is the position that was intended for us as women and as wives.